my language, my self-talk. Driving to work, the thoughts would come in. You're stupid. You're an idiot. You're not that smart. People don't like you. They tolerate you. These are the things I'm thinking to myself all day. Before I make my first phone call, I'm already behind the eight ball. I'm
Right.
miserable. Nobody wants to talk to me. I had decided I was going to change my language. I was going to look for something good. And I went into this coworker's office and I saw that he had a plaque. He had just graduated from this course. I said, "Hey, you graduated from that course. Congratulations." And he turned to me and said, "Shut up, Darren. I'm not in the mood for you today." I left there going, I was just trying to compliment you. But I realized I'd become that person. Even my self-talk had turned into how I treated other people. I was negative. I was sarcastic. I made fun of everybody, trying to build myself up. And so changing my language was massive for me.
Welcome to Time Tested Mastery Life Lesson Sell. Today I'm sitting down with Darren Smith, a sales professional with more than 25 years in commission-based sales, still in the field today and still producing at a high level. Darren's story matters because he's not coming from a born confident starting point. Earlier in his career, he was a below-average producer who worked hard, felt burnt out, and honestly wasn't sure what direction he was heading. Then a trip to the mountains of Nepal became a turning point, not because it was magical, but because it forced clarity. Darren came back with a new relationship to mindset, confidence, and how he shows up in conversations. And his results followed. He went on to become a top producer in competitive home improvement sales with multiple years in the $8 to $10 million sales range, and in 2025, he topped his best year ever. Out of that journey, Darren built what he calls the Best Life Framework, a practical system to help people build confidence, improve focus, and show up strong every day so they can have better conversations, stronger relationships, and consistent results. So my first question, Darren, for today's listeners, share a little bit about your background leading up to the work you're doing now and what changed for you when you hit that turning point.
I've been in sales for a long time. I remember working in a lumber mill and I was production manager, and I'd come into the sales pit, three guys sitting around drinking coffee, telling jokes, thinking that's the job I want. I want to be a salesperson. No idea that only one of the three was successful, and they were working long hours long after I was gone. So I thought the world would be great jumping into sales. So I became a student of sales. I read books, took courses, tried to learn everything I could to make myself better. And in the middle of that, I think I took on an extreme work ethic in that I would outwork anybody and I would go further than anybody. I would do more than anybody. But if you imagine lifting a 10-pound weight, you can do that for a long time. But after a while, you can't lift it anymore. And so I was driving myself so hard to become something that I didn't even know what I wanted to be or who I was. And so I hit a wall and it affected everything. So suddenly I'm not the husband I need to be at home. I'm not the father I need to be with my kids. I'm not the friend I should be. And it took its toll on me. I became very negative. I wasn't somebody you wanted to be around. And I used to be I was the class clown. I was the guy who was always joking around and making you laugh. And that wasn't me anymore. Yeah. So I just hit a point where I was below average in sales. My manager liked me because he knew I was working hard, but I wasn't getting the results. Yeah.
Well, let's go back because I think we're going to talk about your trip to Nepal. But growing up, did you ever consider getting into the sales business? You said you were a production manager. Did you even think about sales before you started your work life?
No, I'd worked a lot in retail, moved my way up to management. I left retail after working 7 days a week. I basically had an emotional breakdown at age 5 just because I'd overworked myself. And so I had never thought about sales until I met someone who was in sales and said, "Hey, we're looking for some people." And of course, you're promised the world. You're going to make all kinds of money. This is going to be the thing that saves everything. And I had no idea what I was getting into.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I heard when I got into the real estate business. What they shared was is that you can make unlimited amounts of money and you can have unlimited freedom. And, sales is like that. I mean, when you are a straight commission salesperson, you can have a ceiling that's really high for income and you can have a lot of freedom. The challenge is you can't have them both at the same time, typically is the problem. And it sounds
Yeah.
like that's what you were sort of experienced with your work in the beginning. So it sounds like you brought a lot of strong work ethic. What was a typical work week like for you when you first started, before the breakthrough for you?
Well, I mean, I tried a lot of different things in sales. I did everything from working in cell phone sales. I did traveling salesman, where I actually went from town to town with my wares. And so I would be gone from the family up to a week at a time. I would leave on Sunday night, come home on Friday night. So work was always there. It was always something that, okay, I'll eat dinner and go back and do more work. Just trying to succeed, trying to provide for my family and killing myself doing it and not getting ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. And so many salespeople get into that same trap that you're talking about there. I mean, I know from my experience over the years looking around is that when times are good, real estate people or salespeople will work really hard thinking, I got to take advantage of this great market that we're in. And when times are really, really bad, they think, well, I got to even work 3 times as hard to make the same amount of money or half the money. So there's almost this very, very difficult exercise in trying to find a work-life balance in sales that is very, very difficult. And I know that you did that when you did your trip to Nepal. So talk about what it was like right before you went on that trip.
Well, I had gone for 4 job interviews in sales and ones that I was qualified for and I should have gotten. But because of my mindset was so bad, my self-talk was so bad, I self-sabotaged those interviews. And through a chain of events, I ran into an old friend who said, why don't you come work for me? And I went to work for him. I guess after about a year of working with him, he decided to take a team to Nepal to help build after the earthquakes in 2015.
Okay.
So we were there just to do manual labor and work away. So we were up in the Himalayan mountains, 10 hours from Kathmandu, 5 hours on the worst road you've ever been on. And I'm standing up in the morning, having my coffee, looking over the valley, tiered farms. Like life there is so rough. They live in stone huts. They use the same firewood heats their house as what they cook with. And I'm overwhelmed by how peaceful the people were, how satisfied they were. They were working hard, but it was different than what we have in our Western culture. And as I was standing there, I heard a voice. It simply said, Darren, you have to be better. You have to be better in every area of your life. You can be better. And it was as simple as that. I came back and went right back to work and forgot all about it.
Okay. It sounds like a sales seminar. We go hear a bunch of great ideas and we come back and don't know what to do.
Exactly. I just went back into the regular mode, showing up to work. And one day I was complaining. Rodrigo. I'll always be thankful to Rodrigo. I shared an office with him and I had been going on for about 4 or 5 minutes complaining about the government, the work, the jobs, the staff. Everything is everybody else's fault. And he looked at me and said, Darren, you're the most negative person I know. If he had slapped me across the face, it wouldn't have had the impact that did. Because it was that day I went, wait a second, I was supposed to get better. And then that's where I went home and sat down and started writing things out.
So you were in what I would call the hamster wheel of the salesperson life. You went to Nepal, had some time away. I think there's nothing better than manual labor. I mean, here I am in Northeast Tennessee. One of my favorite things to do is the custom that they have here about mowing grass. I mean, we mow grass all summer long. I mean, once or twice a week. When we get into spring, you have to mow every 4 or 5 days because the grass grows so fast here. So there's something really good about manual labor. So you were doing that and you had sort of this spiritual experience. But when you came back it didn't change until you had that moment where you realized that nothing had changed when you got back, is what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it took someone else to kind of slap me across the face and just remind me about that time.
Yeah. So how did you turn it around?
Well, I sat down and I started looking at other people in my life. So because in Nepal, it was very physical. We went on a hike that was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. You're up high altitude, you can't breathe. I'm out of shape. So my first thought was I need to get in shape. So I thought about a friend that I know that literally goes to the gym 5 days a week, completely jacked. He's the most negative person I know. He was so unhappy. His marriage ended up falling apart. He looked good on the outside, but in the side, he was miserable. So I thought, well, maybe I need more peace. So I had another friend who was, if you spent half an hour with him, you'd be like, he's my favorite person. Loved being around him. He had peace. He was so kind. He wasn't successful at all. He was about to retire and had nothing. So I was like, well, maybe I need to be successful. And I thought of another friend. He had a successful business. He was starting a multi-million-dollar business. His wife felt like she was a single mom and he was missing his kids grow up. So I quickly realized that I couldn't just focus on one area. I needed to focus on my entire self. And that's where I started writing down, okay, what do I want to change? What do I need to improve? And as I'm writing this down, this acronym kind of came to life.
So if I'm hearing right, when you decided to make a change, you sat down and you inventoried what you saw around you with the people that were around you. And not only did you write down the things that they were doing that you liked, but you were also writing the things that they were teaching you not to do.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think we often focus on one or two things and forget about the rest.
So go ahead and tell me about your acronym and the program that you're working on. It's called Best Life Framework, right?
Yeah. So this was creative for me. This was never meant to share with anybody. It was just like, how can I get better? And as I said, I was starting to write these things down. So the first thing I wrote down was my body. And the way I describe that is if you can go back in time when you got your driver's license, do you remember the stress of being there and you finally pass and they hand you a piece of paper? Imagine at that time, they hand you a set of keys, said, here's your brand new car. Costs you nothing. It's yours to have, but it's the only car you'll ever have. Suddenly, you're not going to be putting cheap gas in it.
No.
You're not going to be ignoring the warning lights. You're going to check the brakes. You're going to take it in anytime something's sounding off. You're going to park it far away from the other cars. You're not going to drive it like it was a throwaway. But that's how we treat our bodies.
Okay.
We eat junk. We don't exercise. We don't go out and mow the lawn. We hire somebody else to do it. Okay. So the body is an important area that you need to work at. The next one is emotions. And I heard someone recently say that they did a meeting in front of 50 people and said, where do our emotions come from? And out of those 50 people, nobody could answer that. And so delving deep into emotions, people often talk about emotional regulation, but what does that look like? Is understanding that emotions just come from a thought. So we have a trigger, an event, something happens, a thought comes to us. We may not even realize what that thought is. It might be subconscious, something from our past, something from maybe you're afraid of losing your life or your kids.
Sure.
So we have a thought, which moves to a feeling, and then we act. So realizing that, backing up, I've learned to regulate through realizing that it's a thought. If you say something to me, I can either think that's funny or I can be offended. And how am I going to respond to that? Right?
Sure.
So then the next thing,
that's really smart. I mean, so you're taking care of your body. I mean, that's the first area that you went. And then the second part is you wanted to have a strong emotional life and you went back to the root of it, which is the things that you're thinking in your head. I think that's great.
Yeah. The next one was spiritual. Now, I'm a Christian, and so I believe in the spiritual side of things. But I think for most people, they haven't thought about who I am. So I remember years ago hearing, what you do is not who you are. And I think everybody would go, yeah, that's totally true. Well, then who are you? If I was to pull away your titles, if I was to pull away your accomplishments, who are you at the core? I spent a long time just weeding everything out and coming up with a statement of who I am. It's as simple as I'm flawed. I'm a person of integrity who's honest, accountable, a leader, and I follow Jesus. That's a simple who I am.
Okay.
When we meet someone, we'll often go, what do you do? And that'll tell me who you are. That never tells you who anybody is. So then the next one is thinking.
They tell you what they do. They don't tell you who they are. They tell you what they do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I placed a lot of value on accomplishments. You know, I won this award, or I was promoted. I have this title. And it hit me hard. I knew a couple. They had 2 young kids. The father took the kids away for a weekend dad-kid camping trip. And on the way home, he died.
Ooh.
Rolled the car. Both him and both his kids died. And the mother was left alone. Everything was taken away from her like that. She no longer was a mother, no longer is a wife. What is she left with? And it can happen to any of us. It's a sad story, but understanding who I am, I mean, you see people get divorced and they struggle through that, right? Or just in life. So understanding who you are and your identity is the core of basically this whole thing. Once you understand that, the rest starts coming into line.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah. Having a sense of self that is not dependent on your next paycheck necessarily or your latest title, but having something of value that that's there all the time. I think that's a really strong thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, even I was famous for, if I won a sale, everybody knew about it. I'm the king of the world. But if I lost a sale, you wouldn't hear from me for 2 days because I was based off of my sales. If I did well, everybody would look at me. If I wasn't doing well, I'm hiding. Yeah. So then the next one would be the thinking. So in the best, so BEST. And really the thinking for me is more about learning your mind, growing, expanding. Like, I remember when I graduated high school, I was excited because I said I'd never have to read another book.
I can sort of relate to that. I remember hearing Jim Rohn for the first time, my favorite business philosopher of all time, Jim Rohn, talking years ago. And he said, only 3% of people, have a library card. He said 3% of the people, all the wisdom in the world is available for free, and only 3% of the people have a library card. And I think at the time that I heard that, I was, 28 or 29 years old. And thinking back, I really hadn't read too much since I got out of high school. And that really changed for me. So I can appreciate that. That's great.
Yeah. So learning new things. I mean, even YouTube. We spend so much time on reels watching something to entertain us. Why not learn something new? I remember my son's car, the radiator went in it. I'm the guy who took it into the garage. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. Let's grab some tools. And the 2 of us went out there and literally on YouTube, step by step, learning how to do it.
Yeah.
But the feeling of accomplishment by learning something new was amazing. And I think we kind of lose that.
So do you have a ritual, or do you have a plan for your continuing education?
Actually, just right now, a huge part has been me building my own thing with the best life.
Okay.
I'm reading. My goal is to read 20 minutes a day. I used to try to read 4 or 5 chapters and I get frustrated. It's like, you know what? 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, I'm going to read for 20 minutes.
Okay.
And it's amazing what you can learn. I've been quoting a book recently. I just read Growth Mindset by Caroline Duick. I don't know if you've heard of it, but I quote it like nonstop. It's a book I read last month, and
awesome.
So just always trying to learn something new. Yeah.
And where are you finding the things? I mean, how do the things come to you that you decide, what makes you decide to pick up this book or that book, or what direction?
A lot of it is suggestions from other people. Like the Carolyn Duick, I heard it from someone that I follow online. He just said, "Hey, here's a great book." So I'm like, okay, I need to go out and read that one. Another one is that I follow Ed Milet, so I've been reading his The Power of One More.
Okay.
Is a new one that I'm reading. So a lot of it has been through influence, people that I know suggest this. And when you get around people that have that similar mindset of growing, we're all sharing, hey, have you read this book? So, oh, I'll write that one down. I'm going to get that one next.
Yeah.
I do know
That's a
that
good
I'll
way to
actually
do
go
it.
to Value Village and stand at the book section for an hour and going, oh, I'll grab that one. Oh, that seems interesting. And if it's not, oh, well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's change course here a little bit and talk a little bit about the sales career that you're in. You know, one of the things as I was reading a little bit about your background, as you were talking about having sort of a pre-appointment ritual or a pre-appointment mindset kind of exercise to make sure that you go into your presentation with your head in the right place. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's something simple. It's just before I go in, before I pick up the phone, whatever I'm doing, I'm going to ask myself, what's the purpose of this meeting? Am I trying to get their signature? Or am I there just to explain, uncover problems? What am I doing? Because I early on would try to get the signature right off the hop and trying to push the sale. And instead of sitting back going, what's the purpose? I need to uncover what their wants, their needs, their budget, their dominant buying motive. I need to uncover that stuff first. So my purpose is just to figure that. I'm not here to sell anything. And if it gets to the signature, fine. But me coming in with that mindset creates the person more relaxed. They don't feel like they're being pressured. They feel like I'm learning something new. He's learning from us. He's trying to figure things out, come up with a solution.
Right.
And I'm not being that pushy salesperson, the one that we all say we're not. But in a lot of cases, we end up becoming.
True. Yeah. I mean, early on, I use the example a lot. I remember there was a movie with Mel Gibson and Danny Glover and Joe Pesci years ago. And I think it was in the second part of the series of that particular series that Joe Pesci got his real estate license and he was running around to you got to buy a house, you got to buy a house, you got to buy a house. I mean, I know I tell that story over and over and over again, but so many people that get into the sales business don't know anything about it except what they've seen on TV, and they begin to act like what they've seen on TV. And true selling and true influence is so much different. And it reminds me of one of the stories that I read, in the stuff about you ahead of time, as you were talking about a real life experience where you went in to talk to a client and they asked you about the price in the very beginning. And the way that you said it, you said, I didn't take the bait. I didn't go to price first. I started asking other questions. Talk a little bit about that mindset and how that story unfolded.
Well, it comes down to exactly what I said. What is my purpose here? And often people want to know the bottom line. Is it going to cost me $10,000, $20,000, $100,000, whatever it is, they're worried about that number. And I learned a long time ago that price is only an issue in the absence of value. So if I'm not building value, it doesn't matter what number I throw at him. I could give him the lowest price possible, but if there isn't value in what I'm building and what I'm selling, it's of no value to them. And so, in that case, and it's not uncommon, what I do is that it's like, well, so what's your bottom line? And they don't want to know about the product, the service, the warranties, the value of working with me. And so I go back and just go, hey, you know what? I've got a few questions before we get there. Let's make sure that we're providing what you need. And of course, maybe they've got 2 or 3 other quotes from someone else. Mm-hmm. Well, let's make sure we're comparing apples to apples. Often what they say they're going to do is not exactly what they're going to do, or maybe I'm offering something that they're not. And I need to know that so I can explain it to them.
Sure. So do you have any particular phrases or dialogue when you get into that sort of that dance about price and value with people? Is there any particular phrase that you use to them to move them from price to value?
So when they're asking for just the price up front, I just take it back to, you know what, I've got a few questions I got to ask you first to make sure that we're offering you
Okay.
what you need, what you want. Undercovering wants and needs, dominant buying motive are so powerful. They may want it in purple and need it in 2 weeks. Those two things might not match.
Okay.
So undercovering those things, asking the right questions, making sure that you know all that information, and then, okay, now let's work on price.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard that phrase before, dominant buying motive, which tells you that I still have lots of things to learn because I've never heard that phrase before. But I liked what you shared there. They would like to have it in purple, but they have to have it in 2 weeks. There's a real strong dance, particularly in the market that I came from in real estate, where the first interaction that you would have with a client, they would say, well, I want these 5 or 10 different features, or this is what I want, this is what I want. And then when they would go out and look at homes, all of a sudden, some of the things that were on their list all of a sudden no longer seemed like they were important anymore. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times salespeople will get so tucked into or so locked in on everything that the person says that they carry an objection into the sale that the buyer doesn't have anymore sometimes. Have you had
Yeah.
that experience?
Oh, yeah. And it comes down to preconceived and our own mindset. I mean, I could take it back to when I was first working in the company that I'm working for now. They gave me a target, a sales target. And I went, I can't imagine that number. That number's too much.
Hmm.
Like it was over $1 million. And I was like, well, I can't imagine selling $1 million of this. I mean, I've sold over 10 times that now.
Yeah.
But because my mindset was set to my preconceived, the way I grew up, maybe you grew up in poverty or you didn't have a
Mhm.
lot, and we get caught into the trap of what we think the homeowner wants or the
Yeah.
person wants, not knowing what, when I say dominant buying motive, what is it that in 2 weeks after they've got what they've bought from you, how are they going to feel different? What
Mhm.
emotions are they going to have? So when they buy the house, I'm so proud of this house, the curb appeal. Like they want status,
Yeah.
right? Maybe someone wants a deal. It's budget. Hey, you know what I got this house for? I got such a smoking deal. But
Yeah.
understanding that dominant buying motive allows you to work towards that. And you're not getting caught in the wants and needs, although those are important. You still need to understand where they're coming from. And if you can figure that out, it's hard. It's asking some difficult questions.
Right.
And simpler, like I said, say it's 3 months after we're done. What are you hoping will be the outcome of this? They'll tell you,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and my favorite, and yeah, and you have to be creative with it. I mean, the best way that I would describe it is, when are you going to have your first pool party with all those kids in the backyard here? So you get them emotionally involved. Well, we're going to have one the 1st of June. Well, you need to be in by June then,
Yeah.
right? So that's
Well,
a
and
that's a
that's
pretty
where
good
I
emotional.
think we fail as salespeople. If you imagine the person is on cliff A, they want to be on cliff B, and we're selling the bridge. We're going to tell them the features, the benefits. Our bridge is the best bridge. Ours is the best price. And now imagine that being going on vacation. You
Yeah.
never go in and say, "Hey, I want to go on vacation to Hawaii," and the travel agent says, "Well, you're going to have to leave early to get on the airplane. You're going to have to go through security. You're going to have to sit next to some big guy who you can't fit in next." No, they're going to tell you about the vacation. Oh, the beaches here
Yeah.
are amazing. They're pristine. Oh, the weather's going to be great. Can you imagine sitting on the beach with a cold drink? Now I'm selling the feeling of being on that other cliff. I'm not selling that
Right.
bridge anymore.
Awesome. Awesome. So for the audience, most of the people that I'm talking with that are selling real estate. Talk a little bit about what you sell and the products that you've been selling. That $10 million number, I know takes quite a bit of selling in the business that you're in.
Yeah, so I'm in roofing and exteriors. So siding, roofing, it's all reno. And so I'm dealing with the homeowners directly. And yeah, you're not getting the full sale of what a house value is worth.
Not selling the whole house.
Yeah, not selling the whole house. I'm selling the replacement. Something that in a lot of cases they don't want to do, right? It's not often that someone's like, hey, I want to change the look of my house. It happens.
Right.
But in most cases, it's like, oh, it's damaged. There's something wrong. It's old. I need to replace it.
So if you were counseling a new salesperson into your industry, what are 2 or 3 practical tips that you would suggest that they incorporate or investigate in order to move their career in the right direction?
It's going to come back to identity, knowing who you are. If I'd known who I was early on, I'd be a lot further on than I am. I wouldn't have spent those years struggling, frustrated, almost cost me my marriage. I mean, how many salespeople do you know that their marriages don't last because they're so busy trying to succeed, they're trying to get ahead, and they're not paying attention to what really matters most to them, whether that's their wife, their family, whatever it is that's important to them, they need to know that. So I think that's what I would teach most people. They're new in there. If you don't know who you are, we often want to know these little tactics for the back end, how to close somebody, what to say, the pre-close. In your opinion, do you feel it's a great pre-close? In your opinion, do you feel people will tell you either how they think or how they feel? And those are great things to use. But I think 80% of the job is done before you even pick up the phone. If you haven't worked on yourself, built your own mindset up, dealt with your language, your goals, knowing where you're going, and that you're in the right boat. What was it Warren Buffett said? Doesn't matter how hard you row if you're in the wrong boat. And so getting people to realize that sales may be not the world for them, that the promises of making tons of money are there, but it's only going to be after you do all that work.
Okay. Well, there's a question that I want to ask you, and I sort of missed it, and so I'm going to go back to it. You talked about your experience going to Nepal and coming back and finding out from your coworker who said, you're the most negative person I know. And then when we talked about it, you talked about your best life framework. But can you give 1 or 2 examples of practical changes that you made on that journey that you adopted into your life?
A huge one was my language, my self-talk. So I would be driving to work and the thoughts would come in. You're stupid. You're an idiot. You're not that smart. People don't like you. They tolerate you. And these are the things I'm thinking to myself all day. I'm showing up to work. Before I make my first phone call, I'm already behind the 8 ball. Right. I'm picking it up miserable. Nobody wants to talk to me. I remember going into an office and I had decided I was going to change my language and I was going to look for something good. And I went into this coworker's office and I saw that he had a plaque. He had just graduated from this course. I said, "Hey, you graduated from that course. Congratulations." And he turned to me and said, "Shut up, Darren. I'm not in the mood for you today." I left there going, I was just trying to compliment you, but I realized I'd become that person. Even my self-talk had turned into how I treated other people. I was negative. I was sarcastic. I made fun of everybody, trying to build myself up. And so changing my language was massive for me.
Yeah. So you changed your language for yourself, which then changed it for dealing with other people. That's a beautiful thought.
Well, there's an old proverb, the power of life and death is in the tongue. So every interaction I can build up or I can tear down. Another analogy I've used is like, if you imagine going into any appointment, any interaction, and my glass is only half full, then I'm looking for you to fill my glass. I'm looking for you to give me some sort of validation. Oh, you're so smart. Oh, wow, you're so good. I'm so lucky to have you. But if I've got my glass full, I'm looking how I can pour it into other people. I'm looking how I can help people. And like I said, that way I interact with them is a lot different than I have to make this sale. If I don't make this sale today, I'm not going to eat. And I've been in those moments and people reacted exactly how you think they would react. Oh, thank you. Have a good day.
Right. Well, share one more practical thing. So you said you changed the self-talk when you made your life turning around with the best practice. So what's one other practical thing that you changed in your business or your personal life?
Well, it was everything. If I stopped eating garbage, I started looking after myself. I lost weight, started feeling better about myself. I started watching what I said. So as far as my emotions, right, that I would take a second. Someone says something like, did they really say that, or what did I hear? I've had
Yeah.
those interactions with my wife where I've said, I'm not that way. She said, I didn't say that, but I heard something different than what was said. But if you take a few seconds and just go, well, what did they say? What did they mean by that? Ask a question. Well, what do you mean by that? Suddenly,
Yeah.
I'm not going to react the same way,
Yeah.
not frustrated or upset. And
Very
then,
good.
like I say, I set goals. Honestly, my goals were hardcore. They were 5 times what my sales manager wanted, and it was based off of what I wanted to do. And I started tracking it. I had a spreadsheet. Every day I was looking at my sales. I was looking at my calls, my follow-ups. What was I doing to move myself forward? And we can often say we are busy. Like in my eye of best life, I talk about whether you're invested or you're interested. We're often interested in these little goals. Oh, I'll go do this. And it feels like accomplishment, but you're not going after that big goal. It's just a distraction. And understanding
Yeah.
what those goals are. And then I broke them down into simple, okay, here's what I have to do daily. Today, I'm going to do this, these many calls. I'm going to reach out to this many people. I'm going to follow to this many people. And when you look after the daily stuff, suddenly my goal for the month was hit 2 weeks in. I'm achieving way more than I thought I could.
So you have this life-changing experience, you reevaluate, you were talking about you learn from people what to do and what not to do. Then you started applying these different things to your life. When did you know you were on the right track? It probably wasn't day one, but when did you know you were on the right track? When did you have evidence?
I think sales was a big one. I remember my first year after I started changing this, I got called into my boss's office and he said, what did you do? I need to teach this to everybody. And at the moment, I didn't even know really how to explain it because I had implemented these things, but I was like, oh, well, I changed the way I think. And he just said, okay, I'll keep it up.
Keep it up. That's great.
So like I doubled my sales targets the first year. And then I doubled them again and doubled them again until finally I've hit targets that are unthinkable, unfathomable to me 10 years ago
Sure.
in the same industry. So it's not like I changed jobs to try something new.
So with your best life framework, for the people that are listening today, are you sharing this message with people in any way where they can contact you and get involved with you? I mean, are you writing books? Are you doing seminar? What do you tell people how they can work with you or how they can interact with you?
Yeah, so I've just finished a course. I am doing some coaching as well. I eventually want to write a book, but with the amount that I've spent on building this on the course side of things, I haven't had time to do a book yet.
Okay.
I do have a website, bestlifegrowth.com. And that's where they can go in and see what I have going on.
So the course is to teach this best life program that you have?
So there's going to be 2 versions of it. There's going to be just the best life designed for the average guy that can take this on. And then I'm going to be doing a sales training as well on how to implement it and then have more of the sales side of things training.
Perfect. Okay. Well, that's wonderful. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience today?
It's possible. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work up here, a lot of work in here. And I remember thinking, what if I do all this work and nothing changes? What if my life isn't any better? What I realized in going through it is no matter what happens in my relationships, no matter what happens with my job, I'm in a far better place myself moving forward. So whoever I come in contact with is going to get the best version of me, no matter what.
Well, that message right there, Darren, is absolutely the cherry on top, because that is what everybody needs to hear. And it usually comes down at the last minute. So I want to thank you for joining us today. And I really wish you the best in the future.
Thanks. It's been great being here.
If you got value out of today's episode, here's your simple assignment. Take one idea Darren shared and apply it to your next conversation. Not next week, Not someday, but your next one. Confidence isn't a personality trait, it's a set of habits and standards you practice until it becomes who you are. Darren, thanks for bringing the real-world lessons and keeping it practical. And to our listeners, if this episode helped you, share it with a salesperson, agent, or team leader who's working hard but feels stuck. And if you haven't yet, follow Time-Tested Mastery Life Lesson Sell so you don't miss the next conversation. I'm Mark Dolan. We'll see you next episode.